Okay, good afternoon. I am Nicole Gauthier. I am the vegetable pathologist here at the University of Kentucky. And of course, powdery mildew is absolutely something that I like to see from a research and management standpoint, not something a grower would like to see. As Dr. Rudolph mentioned a minute ago, we're looking at powdery mildew resistance. So in this high tunnel, we have 9 cultivars of zucchini squash, and half of them are supposed to be resistant or reported as resistant to powdery mildew. The rest are not. And as you can tell by looking at me, every plant here has powdery mildew, some less than others. We're about at that point, though, that in the season that there is too much powdery mildew for any grower, even for resistant cultivars. This would not be acceptable, even those that look the best. There's still an unacceptable level of powdery mildew here. And we'll talk about that in a second when it comes to management. Powdery mildew is a fungal disease. So there are 3 different species of fungi that cause powdery mildew. So we use the word powdery mildew because this is the sign of the fungus. This is the mycelia and the spore load that makes it powdery and white. There are 3 different species. They all have different preferences, but in general, relative humidity of 40% to 90%. Right now, as I'm standing here, we have a 75 or 76% relative humidity going on right now. So over 70%, every disease is happy. Every plant pathogen is happy at any humidity over 70%. So 75% is not acceptable from a grower standpoint. It's absolutely acceptable from a standpoint of fungi. So this is what powdery mildew looks like. This is when it's extreme. So we always have to start managing powdery mildew, ideally preventatively. So we'll start spraying for powdery mildew when the conditions are favorable. That means when these plants begin their reproductive phases and the oldest leaves will be showing symptoms and signs first. They are infected very early, but they're older. So we'll always look at the lower canopy at those older leaves first as we're scouting. That's when we always have to have our preventative fungicides out. Now, when I talk about fungicides, I can be talking about organic fungicides, or I can be talking about biologicals, very soft, or I can be talking about conventional. Either way, there still must be some type of fungicidal product used to manage powdery mildew when you have susceptible plants, especially in Kentucky, where we always have that very high humidity. So powdery mildew, the reason it is so bad, particularly in cucurbits, it causes necrosis of the leaves. So these plants are going to start dying back. These leaves start dying back. And as you see behind me, we have lots of dieback. We also have bacterial wilt, but that's not what this project is about. So I'm not going to talk about bacterial wilt. But anyway, as you start seeing the dieback, that's what's happening here. And eventually all of these plants are going to collapse. So we're not going to have anything left of these plants.